blue side.
There's a wrinkle.
That's certainly not what I was expecting. I'm sorry, everyone, for sending you down the wrong path. The first time here at the Rift Rivals tournament, the Afreeca Freecs will be on the red side. Banning away the Nocturne makes a lot of sense. You expect something like Zoe or Talia here, but Shen and Swain, the first bans for RNG.
I love the fact that RNG want to play standard lanes. If they can choose so, they want to try to exploit their talent advantage across from Afreeca. So they ban the things like the Swain, like the Shen. They want traditional ADCs down there.
Now remember that red side can funnel. It's not the funnel is banned away. Xayah or Rakan needs to be the picked or banned to stop the funnel truly. And even then, Braum, Kai'Sa, we've seen plenty of variants. G2 send their regards. There's many different ways to run funnel, but that is the extra wrinkle. We're seeing them on blue side. The Shen, which is usually paired with the mage bot lane, Zoe Shen, is what we saw from Kuro and Tucson in the bot lane. That's been banned away. Already we're seeing evolving targets. Bans are done. A lot of the big first picks taken away.
And for the LPL all day, it's been about the jungle priority as your first pick, the Sejuanis, the Camille's.
What about that Xayah or Rakan? They're both available.
And I also feel like, yeah, the support pool is huge. Aatrox left available as well as Zatai. Thinking about it, 6 seconds to go, but Rakan, I feel like this is the cerebral choice coming out from RNG. They take it away from Tucson or Spirit.
If you see Afreeca Freecs with aiming and you choose blue side and you don't take Xayah or Rakan, it almost feels like you're just making a mistake. I think it's the right move from them. They're saying, hey, Aatrox is open, but they need to deny away the most prototype funnel that's been the most successful.
I just feel like now, Afreeca Freecs, I don't want them to fall into the same trap that they fell into the first time we saw them, which was exactly this. Pick the Xayah as soon as you see the Rakan to try and deny it away, because RNG have shown us that they're not necessarily the best team at funneling.
I actually don't mind taking away the Xayah because we expect MLXG to be on Camille, and Xayah has some good interactions with that. The Camille could also just be taken, I guess, here by Spirit if they really want to apply pressure. And if we do see Camille first round, you're starting to say, hey, maybe this is just standard lanes by the Afreeca Freecs.
I would expect
Darius is another option. They're going to lock that one away. Still, funnel is the opportunity here. And the Darius going into the hands of Keen looked like it was the one copping the funnel last time we saw this.
I also think this is a lot of respect to Xiaohu. He's only got like 3 champions that he plays right now. Zoe, we saw the Lissandra come out, and then he'll reach for the Aurelia occasionally. Yes, he's experimented, dabbled with other things, but it has not been a good look for him.
Also, you see Xayah Darius, then you don't know if it's going to be funnel. It could be funnel, it may not be. Could always second round ban it if Afreeca Freecs won. The Aatrox given away as a power pick to the side of RNG. Been up and down, but when it's up, it's been game ending for sure.
Yeah, it's most likely going into the hands of Zatai as well. As you were talking about, Xiaohu, not with the most flexibility when it comes to champion pool. Once he figures a champion out, fantastic. However, hasn't had a lot of time, and that's the Vladimir to be locked in from RNG.
And that's Xiaohu's pick. This was the other champion that I was going to talk about. But if you remember back to MSI, sometimes Xiaohu looks amazing on Vladimir, and sometimes it looks like he's power inting into the back line. It has just been a very inconsistent performance from him, but that does mean that we'll probably see a traditional ADC, something that can spread the damage around and really make the most of a Hemo Plague.
Oh wow, and here's a Kuro pick in
would
the
cement
mid lane.
standard lanes, you would think, with the Anivia going in. So maybe to try to separate some of these bruiser threats. Remember, Dark Flight is gone from the Aatrox, so Wall could do a lot of work.
I think that you have to actually ban Ashe away here right now. It's hard because Anivia does have such long range that she can make it very difficult, but someone like Ashe, like Varus, would work very well in the hands of Uzi to work in tandem with the Vladimir, spreading around that damage for the Hemo Plague, and then also providing that range safety against a long-range champion like Anivia.
Well, you can see Afreeca Freecs probably pretty excited about a potential Tahm Kench pickup. RNG will see whether they find that ban button. Alistair going to be the first support to hit the bench. And it's the Camille taken away from MLXG. He had a great performance on it last time out. Underleveled, but it didn't matter. His gank timings in the early game were phenomenal. Not going to happen this time, but we know MLXG has deep pockets.
And I imagine, in contrary to what you're suggesting, some sort of engage for Tucson, because Tucson on Tahm Kench has been a down pick for him. We think of that multiple games he played in the LCK finals of spring season. He's known for engage, and that's why the Blitzcrank was one I was actually wondering about, to try to cause a bit of a ruckus on the Rift. You can silence the Rakan, try to kill him after the hook goes in. So what is the choice going to be here? You'd think support, and they still have a lot of options, but it could just be jungle and a last pick support.
I mean, you could just grab the Sejuani at this point if you just want to have a very standard front-to-back type of composition.
Yep.
Certainly a consideration, certainly very Freljordian as well, grabbing a bit of an ice theme for the Afreeca Freecs, but now RNG have to let us know exactly what Uzi is going to be playing down towards the bottom side.
But this feels like such a disappointment from Afreeca right now that they opted into a standard composition across from a team like RNG. I wanted Afreeca because I wanted the creativity.
Would you like an Uzi? Because the fans certainly would.
I certainly would love an Uzi Vayne. We're looking at the Trundle, the classic matchup into the Sejuani, still no closer to knowing what Uzi is going to be playing. You mentioned the Ashe, that is available. Varus, that is available. Some of these lanes with the Rakan have been fantastic. I personally would not like to see the Vayne unless they're planning on trying to shut down King.
Exactly, too short range, but you can see Coach Hart over Uzi's shoulder, the two talking back and forth, obviously picking up the Trundle here to get just a bit more time, and it will be the Varus. I don't think you can pick Vayne here. She's too short range across from Sejuani and Anivia.
Yeah, Anivia, I think, will stop most of what she wants to do in a team fight. So this goes for the Varus, goes for lane power. What will the bot lane duo be with the Xayah locked in much earlier? Aiming has Smite we should draw attention to, and who knows what that means.
They're considering some sort of pseudo-weird funnel, potentially, but the Tahm Kench that I was talking about that, Puppy, you're not very excited about, is going to be taken here. So a lot of safety on the bottom side of the map.
At some point you're priced in because you see the Varus as well, and Tahm Kench, a very natural answer into it. But you start to wonder, we just saw a Kingzone game where low damage was a big issue for them when it came to puncturing through a front line. There's a lot of divers on the side of RNG, and one wall isn't going to be enough to herd them off. Afreeca Freecs, they're going standard against RNG, probably the best standard team in the world by far.
And that was the story of the entire tournament. You know, the LPL were so rigid on their meta. They had not bent to the bruisers, to the Heimerdingers. We've seen them cropped up a little bit over in North America for the Battle of the Atlantic. Those crazy picks were everywhere. But when it comes down to the wire, you bend to the LPL. You play standard around them. This isn't what I wanted from Afreeca, and I'm curious now if Korea are regretting not playing KT right now.
Well, I don't know whether they'd be that worried about it just yet. We've got to get into the match and see whether Afreeca Freecs can prove us wrong. If they beat RNG at standard League of Legends, regular lanes, marksmen where they're supposed to be, this would be a huge statement for the LCK.
Keen could be one of those game breakers. He's on the Darius again. Darius versus Aatrox. We didn't go the Aatrox way, but this would be a statement, career-making game.
And Zatai, it's now his turn to turn up the heat as far as his laning phase is concerned. We've complimented him on his improvement in teleports, but his laning phase left a little to be desired, especially on that of the Aatrox. We'll see whether the Darius matchup for Keen is going to be a different story than the other times we've seen these two champions in a lane together.
He's always been the 1v1 top laner, didn't get to go to MSI, casted it from home in China. He now gets to be on his international stage and try to attempt to lift a trophy for the first time.
Well, this will be absolutely huge. Remember, for MLXG, this is a huge moment as well. He wants to have some of that glory and prove himself as the RNG jungler. No caster this time around to win MSI. This Rift Rivals is going to be MLXG in game number 5. It all comes down to RNG versus the Afreeca Freecs. It's a blood moon tonight. I can tell this is going to be a bloody game. See whether it's Afreeca Freecs or RNG.
And you can hear the stage behind them, the crowd roaring. Rogue Warriors, RNG came to them and said, win us one. Rogue Warriors return the favor and say, now go win us the championship. Everything is behind RNG, all of the momentum behind the LPL.
And to say the stage is set would be an understatement. The stage here in Dalian, beautiful and also filled with fans expecting an LPL win. And I actually think that RNG do claim something tangible with a win here. With the way that Rift Rivals is interpreted, you might say, well, what is that? If they win here, we have arguments on whether this is the best squad to ever play League of Legends, because that would be Zatai and MLXG also being able to be clutch, being able to pick up a win when their country, when their nation, when the fans need them to. And that would start to say that they have 7 players who you swap in and out can make big
here
plays.
we go. Zatai thinking about going back to his roots in the mid lane as the Aatrox is going to be picked up, and Xiaohu going to be on the top lane, Predator Vladimir.
And the thing about Zatai is he was very well known. He was the former mid laner of Invictus Gaming. He's been playing since he was 15 years old, the same alongside Uzi, one of the longest standing. I believe he's number 2 in terms of LPL players on the list for when the league was created, and he has played all sorts of crazy things in the mid lane.
Hey, we got 2.
Yeah, we got 2. I feel pretty damn good
Woo!
about that, to be honest. I was almost expecting it to be 100% because a lot of the fans here in China are putting their voices out.
Always got to be a couple of trolls.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we're just going to say that it's 100%. Let's go for it.
For a China vote, yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. As Xiaohu versus Keen here on the top side of the map. You can see it here, a cheer, just for the fact that he manages to win a trade and uses the range to push the Darius around. Kuro, we'll see what he can do up against the Aatrox as the Anivia.
This will echo the Kled matchup to some degree, though, because we saw Anivia's just not able to harass out anyone pre-6, just not enough damage. They're the DPS through the Doran's Shield Aatrox. So I like the lane swap, the nod to history, as you mentioned, for us, with Zatai being a long-time mid laner. In fact, role swapped between mid and top twice in the last 3 years, so it's definitely been playing both at a competitive level. And it's also a matchup that Kuro will have very limited games against.
It's really been a story or a great year for Zatai. I know it's kind of outshone by Uzi, which makes sense, but when taking down Rookie, that was the guy who replaced them in the semifinals back in the LPL, and Zatai, seeing Rookie collapse on stage, ran back to the guy who benched him and gave him a hug.
But while he's been involved in squads, he's kind of been there. Kind of the sort of malaise that Crown has talked about, winning a world championship but not being able to be a star player. Zatai calling for the mid lane spot, being confident enough to pull it in, is a far-flung thing from just being a squad member on a successful team.
And we can see already it's working out beautifully. Kuro taking half of his health bar and damage, getting shoved underneath the turret. Keen has to deal with the Crimson Rush, and now not even able to head out into this lane.
And these were some of our concerns and why we voiced our opinions for KT, or at least we're having them in the conversation. It's one thing for Afreeca to strategically outthink RNG, but when it comes to brute strength, it felt like KT were the only roster that could really match up. And right now you have mid lane and top lane getting absolutely thrashed this early in the game.
Mostly because of some very nice lane swaps coming through. The matchup choices here by RNG, creative, but also very effective. Vladimir just outranging the Darius.
Well, Ming is going to jump in on top of aiming. Lethal tempo is going to proc, but otherwise not too much. Just testing the waters here is the Rakan.
Both carries taking that lethal tempo Atlas. The W for such a slow Anivia is so frustrating to play against, as you can see.
See whether Kuro decides to go for Swifties. Fly around a little bit faster as aiming getting poked down by Uzi. The hail of arrows really, really hurting. Afreeca Freecs just feeling like they're getting pushed in absolutely everywhere, looking to where Spirit is. It's a Tiamat already picked up by MLXG in the jungle. We haven't seen the Sejuani anywhere just yet.
And I think Spirit really needs to be the savior for them in this early game. As Pop is talking about, a lot of this is based on the matchup, so it should go this way for RNG. Yes, creativity to find the matchups.
Well, Tucson is going to spit a minion towards Ming, but it's not going to stop the back from Uzi. He's looking to try and teleport back in. Does so after aiming does the same thing. He's going to grab a pickaxe, and we've got the Vamp Scepter as well as the dagger from Uzi to come in, building towards Blade of the Ruined King, as we've been seeing most of the time, unless you're deft, feeling like he's in a very comfortable matchup.
But going Vamp Scepter to dagger here, and he's already going to be winning trades, as we saw earlier. He's going to have a pretty significant health advantage for the majority of the laning phase, and that usually crests in aiming and Tucson about half health under their turret with no lane control. So we'll see if Sejuani will try to impact that lane and stop that. For now, considering a top lane gank is the Sejuani.
Yeah, Spirit going to set himself up there, and now Kuro has made it to that all-important time of level 6. Is MLXG perfect position for a counter gank, or is Spirit as Keen half the health bar as Hemoplate? He's just going to get flashed on Spirit. Great double knockback for Keen. He's going to go down for first blood. He goes over to Xiaohu's Spirit. He may actually suffer this one as well. The flash is available, and he just pulls out the blood. RNG, they're not pulling any punches this game. It's looking disastrous already for the LCK.
From bad to worse for the LCK, the fact that MLXG starts the gank with the flash as opposed to using the pillar, then has it to make sure that he not only picks up one kill, but then also is able to grab Spirit.
And I was shaking my head very early in that because the level 6 ping meant the Hemoplague went down. Spirit was already second guessing whether he should commit. Eventually went in with the flash. He thought, okay, I've gone for the play footwork, maybe I can make something happen. It was only going to go one way, and the double death chamber for Afreeca is a huge advantage to what was already a winning early game for RNG.
And again, you look across this roster and it's first time on an international stage and still a lot of inexperience, especially when it comes to this new top laner in Keen up there. Yes, he's got a veteran standing next to him like Spirit, but you think about these intangibles under a high pressure situation, trying to read the map like that. What are the comms? Because it felt very muddied there from Afreeca.
Well, speaking of muddied, Zatai continuing to be frustrating to Kuro. He still doesn't have boots available. May have actually got the free-ass version that will be coming online in about 3 minutes. But just a tier and a ring. And this Anivia is just going to have to sit there and put down an ultimate and hopefully stay in range.
Probably should load in a prayer at some point there, Atlas.
Yeah, and more prayer circles. We feeling like it's continuing down the same path. The prayer circle worked damn well for Rogue Warriors last game.
Lane phase doesn't look great right now.
And the silver linings are so situational for the Afreeca Freecs. We were already saying, what about Spirit being a silver lining? As Xiaohu hits 6, they go for the all-in. That just means that RNG were a step ahead of the play. Keen is always going to go down. He had done very well CS-wise, and Xiaohu doesn't even have to flash to pick up this kill. Walks up, gets the last transfusion. That's the top lane exclamation point that the side of RNG was looking for. And now, unless it's going to be a really impressive objective play, in terms of standard lanes, a disaster for Afreeca Freecs.
And this is the most terrifying thing about RNG, though, is that it feels like we haven't truly seen their ceiling. Because again, when Uzi is playing the best that he ever has, someone like Xiaohu was having a very inconsistent performance. But if you think back to 2016, when Xiaohu was on his high, you know what's capable. And if RNG ever return to that form across the board, they will be one of the most devastating teams that League of Legends has ever seen.
You already have questions like, who are their best 5? And can you answer that question in a vacuum? Or do you need to know who you're facing to be able to work out 6 or 7 players? The 6 is all you can bring to an international tournament. But Karsa, MLXG, and Zatai and Let.Me with so much different playstyle that perhaps you just have that embarrassment of riches we always talk about on the Rift, but off the Rift as well. RNG has so much, and Keen, he's got nothing.
Yeah, RNG have absolutely everything. He's trying to get up to even look at a minion, but can't. And this is going to be first turret going down very easily. Afreeca Freecs look like they have no idea what to do.
And the issue is that there's just too many lanes bleeding out right now. Spirit can't be everywhere. He was burned very hard when he attempted to dig Keen out. But he needs to pay attention to his bot lane, hand over the blue, because Anivia is so dependent on that to just even step forward in the lane across from Aatrox. There's no assistance coming for Keen.
This is one of the most one-sided early games that we've seen so far in this tournament, let alone this series. RNG really just destroying Keen. Gonna get Hemoplague, but Kuro is here. And MLXG, he may just pay the price. Trying to get the autos in and knows that he can just fight back, and that's something on the board for the Afreeca Freecs.
It's okay, LCK. MLXG's got you. He'll give you one.
But it's Score's birthday, not the LCK's.
Yeah, exactly.
A present's always nice, though. I'll take it.
Yeah, thanks very much. Tucson is going to wander out of the way of the Infernal Chains as Zatai clears out the control ward. All of the control available here for RNG. Won't let any of those pesky wards stay on the map for long. Having to farm with your Relic Shield and Tongue Lash feels pretty bad.
Nothing overcomplicated for RNG to do this and keep playing the natural game they were. We already talked about the item lead bot side. It's going to be hampered by the fact that the second purchase was a bit of boots here, working towards the Berserker Greaves, is aiming. Spirit has been second to everything on the Rift, and MLXG, while he was a little bit too happy to pull the trigger on that turret dive, has otherwise allowed the Vladimir to be in just a huge place in terms of items.
Going for the Reverie as well, so mixing up. Usually we've seen a lot of experimentation with the Vladimir builds, but understanding that he's been unlocked, that he can use this item to run down the Darius.
Well, Spirit is going to give away his position, as you saw just there. Uzi and Ming know exactly what not to do, and that is fighting. But yeah, 30% CDR already built up by Xiaohu towards the top side. There is nothing that Keen can do. The transfusions are going to be coming in all over the place. Even level 9 has been hit.
He basically has to hide at his tower, and more important is the safety net of vision that RNG have placed underneath Xiaohu, a very deep control ward to try to spot out Kuro as he tries to assist him, or anyone that wants to walk through the base gate. If Xiaohu wants, he's just going to sit up there infinitely and try to poke and prod.
Well, teleport is going to come in here, as there is a Sejuani to try and help him out. Aiming will throw a few feathers forward. This is real scary. Like you were saying, MLXG is down there. Shelly's being taken as well. RNG so greedy with their play, but it looks like the punishment just isn't there from the Afreeca Freecs.
You say greedy, but I don't agree, Atlas. Look at the map. They have so little control of anything that actually it's stupid not to take an opportunity if no one's there to answer you. Afreeca Freecs have the highest ward cleared per minute rate of the LCK, and one of the highest I've ever seen. They can't get near wards, minions, turrets, they can't get near anything. So take all the freebies. Everything in the game is just a free handout to the side of RNG.
Never have I thought that the jungler being bot side means that it's a free Rift Herald, Papa Smithy, but I can't help but understand your logic. Spirit can't even take a dang red buff.
I mean, frankly, this is a not like this type of moment. This is not necessarily the best of 5 fifth game that I wanted to see come out from two Titan regions like the LPL and the LCK. The crowd is loving it, but I am just wincing for Afreeca right now.
RNG are handing out a punishment like we saw yesterday, Machi and G-Rex receiving. This is the sort of one-sided game that you wince at, but RNG from the start, from the blue side, choice into the draft here, and Afreeca Freecs kind of, I guess, necessitating themselves into going into a pretty standard draft. It always coalesced in what is just pretty embarrassing early game where Afreeca Freecs have nothing to hang their hat on, no real win condition to look forward to apart from maybe later.
And at this point, it's about minimizing those losses, making sure that they can stall out how quickly the towers are taken down. It's unfortunate because finally it's not a Cloud Dragon, it is an Infernal, so the RNG certainly biting them in the ass right there. But ultimately, it's just staunch the bleeding, hang on as long as we can. We still have a 5v5 composition. We can still try to out-execute around this, but Afreeca need a lot of time.
Well, lose less isn't necessarily the best winning strategy, and RNG are just winning more and more and more across this map. 3,000 gold is the lead. You may not necessarily feel like that is a large amount, but with the amount of control they have, with all the neutral objectives that they have, that is huge. It's aiming, even the gleaming quills are landing here from Ming, despite it meaning anything or not.
Kind of have to pull one out for the Sejuani, because what lane do you go to? In bot lane, you're like, okay, I follow up CC from aiming, maybe I can make it work. Well, no, they don't have to opt into any of that. Vladimir's in the mid lane, good luck with that. And ganking for your Darius sounds like a bad idea.
Yep, every single buff is being camped out by MLXG as well. Keen can't go anywhere like you were talking about. They at least know that MLXG's bot side, but damn, he's just taking what he wants.
And this is what happens when you choose to standard lane against some of the best laners in the world. And it is just brutal to watch.
Well, it's not what we were expecting out of the Afreeca Freecs. However, they must have had a plan. At least, you know, looking at Kuro, he's only he's 20 CS behind. Where are the good news stories here for Afreeca? I cannot find them.
They got a hype best of 3 against Griffin on Wednesday.
Hey, yeah, nice.
Well, I was going to say, I think that...
We'll see you there for that one.
While Spirit has been unable to make the gank successful, he's at least choosing where he needs to be on the lane. He thought that, okay, Uzi and Ming are pressuring this tower, maybe they overextend and I'm able to punish with a counter gank. He understands that Zatai is walking into the mid lane, so he's behind Kuro. He's trying to catch RNG with their hand in the cookie jar, but they're being too patient.
Well, RNG just take the bot outer turret. They've already taken the top outer as well. You could imagine that mid's probably the next one to fall, unless Xiaohu can continue to split push like a beast. You've got the 1-3-1 being enacted here by RNG, of course, as Zatai finally goes back to his rightful lane.
I love observers in this meta, it's so funny.
You don't need to switch it now, guys. It's 15 minutes in. I think, you know, the laning phase is done. It's over, we're okay.
Put Uzi in the mid lane, come on now.
Yeah, there we are, switch it. Put Ming in the mid lane as well.
Well,
yeah.
All right, Afreeca Freecs. We always talk about what to do in scenarios like this. We did it yesterday in the LMS versus LCK series. Put down some control wards and start to try to own something. Even just guaranteeing Raptor Red and the Krug's top side, or the Gromp bot side with the Wolves. A quadrant where they're not afraid of instantly dying would be a movement forward from Afreeca, as repelling this push would be nice also.
They did a great job at it.
Shelly may not even get a charge. She doesn't. So Afreeca Freecs that. Yeah, there we go.
If that's what
achievement.
I'm for, it's bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was already bad, Papa.
I mean, that's the best play they've made all game so far.
That's true.
Even starting from the draft. Not been a lot of great news stories. Xiaohu continuing to push up. The Aatrox on the top side in the hands of Zatai, also moving further forward. Keen, anemic on the Darius. This is not the Pentakiller that we know him to be on this particular pick, despite that being Khan.
So the most important thing on the map right now is going to be that mid tower for both teams. Afreeca want to try to hang on to it as long as possible because it's their best way to stall out the game. It's their primary pivot point. As soon as this falls, then RNG, of course, gets so much access into the either side of the jungle that they want, into the Baron when it decides to spawn in 3 minutes. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with moving the Anivia from this lane, but ultimately you don't want to make your carries compete for the gold, but I actually think Kuro should be the one here to stop and try to hold this last bastion of defense.
Season 2 strategies,
I was going to say, frog and eat your heart out. Let's do it.
Let's go.
I'm digging
Give me
real
90
deep
minutes.
here.
Yeah, we're going to need 90 minutes. We're going to need Kuro in 3 lanes, putting down his ultimate everywhere from double the range of safety.
There's no Sivir.
Oh, damn it.
Aiming quickly, build a Hurricane. He might actually. Should come in as item number 2. But Afreeca Freecs might get a red buff of their own.
That's a dream. I mean, they haven't been able to get really anything on the map, so you'll take a red buff.
Yeah.
Spirit really wants it.
He certainly did. Going to smite that one away for
now
himself.
He has slows.
This gold lead has not changed for a very long time, guys. And I mean, that's something that we can talk about as facetiously you talk about Sejuani
I just love
slows.
these goalposts being moved. Yeah, but now he's got the red buff and he can slow people.
Yeah. When's the Ashe going to build Thornmail? Let's talk about that.
Well, this might just be a tutorial victory one way or the other, Atlas, because so far they are being frustrated. Credit to Afreeca. They've defended something. The mid lane outer turret has been so far well defended. If we're going to criticize RNG, could have had a better Rift Herald is something you could actually say and not be facetious about. But Xiaohu has his initiation. He's basically budget cled at this point with the Shirelias and the Banshee Veil. Hoping he's going to get into the back line, have some friends with him.
Budget Cled Morgana as well. I mean, it's sort of pseudo Black Shield.
Aiming, finding some farm down in that lane, but top lane hasn't ballooned, and that's actually just the safety that Keen has shown.
Yeah, Keen actually playing very respectfully and is going to be at least relevant moving towards the later fights, but Zatai, level advantage, CS advantage, and RNG now looking to try and crash in to the mid lane. Tucson has to be careful. Grey Health not going to be invested until the very end of that skirmish, as RNG are going to push this full minion wave into the turret. Aiming at least does have some wave clear, even though Kuro isn't available, and Xiaohu going to get locked in. Banshee's Veil not even going to pop, as he just goes into his Sanguine Pool.
It's too early to say that RNG have been stalled out, but Afreeca are in the process of doing this. They have stopped the bleeding.
Oh, Kuro has to flash, get himself out of the way. He really wanted this blue buff, but there's no way RNG are letting him. He's going to now have to go back to base. 6 stacks on the Rod of Ages, now looking to try and get some more items, but this Ocean Drake certainly going into the hands of RNG. 2 dragons to nothing.
More than a bridge too far to be trying to fight for an Ocean Drake. But fights are what they're kind of buying themselves time to actually shoot for. 5 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, it didn't look like there was going to be a fight. Look, the game would just end before there was any relevant battle with 4+ people on the map. This time, with the Rod of Ages stacking up, slowly building items, they get into the position where RNG should have map control and should have much bigger objectives, like a 5-stack Elder versus just stopping a 5-stack Elder. But those fights are still something that Afreeca had to earn, and they are closer and closer to earning them.
And ultimately, if you do go back and watch this VOD, you look at that Rift Herald usage. Yes, it was a silver lining and a very small piece for Afreeca, but at the time, if this game stalls out long enough, if Afreeca are able to climb back into those fights, and let's say RNG mis-execute one of them, suddenly Afreeca are looking just fine versus the first 20 minutes of this game. So, there still is hope there that this game can go one way or the other.
So let's talk about why the RNG team have been unable to move their lead. One thing to consider is usually in a scenario like this where you have the side lanes, you have side laners that should win in the 1v1, it's about pushing up vision and then just creating a dive scenario where the Anivia has to give up turret. To do that, they have to invest Rakan, because Uzi's not going to be poking in, and there's pretty little CC on the members like Xiaohu, Zatai, MLXG. They don't have a lockdown, so you need Ming invading with someone like the Trundle to get the vision on one side, the blue or red side jungle, and then actually making a dive. But it's very easy for someone like a Sejuani, who has their flash up, just sit back, sweeper, put down a control ward, get half of a camp, and then back away. And while it doesn't grow a lead for Afreeca, it stems the bleeding that was so big 10 minutes ago.
It's also about this idea of vision denial. You spoke about the vision denial stats from Afreeca, and you can see that they've been clearing out their jungle pretty consistently. But RNG are also a weaker team when it comes to vision denial, and haven't been doing their due diligence to remove the safety net that Afreeca have in their own jungle, so they can safely maneuver Kuro from one lane to the other, give back up to that mid lane, pick up all of the farm in the bot lane.
And there's always the chance that you see something desperate, a turret dive that's ill-advised, and a turnaround. Again, the Afreeca Freecs have been able to at least make that a variable. They've also silenced the crowd. There's no more Bronx cheers for ward kills and things like that here. Everyone is understanding that Afreeca have got much longer leashes. Xiaohu does threaten some sort of dive. They know that's low percentage to dive this turret, and now 22 minutes in, the mid lane turret is still there, and it's still just a 4,000 gold lead, in fact less than 4,000.
And we use the word desperation, but the other word that does apply to LPL teams is frustration. They constantly get stalled out in these ARAN types of scenarios, and like Pop is saying, with these very risky dives, suddenly high reward, low risk plays start to even out, and that's where Afreeca find their step back in. At what point are RNG going to get frustrated enough that they try to force a dive that they shouldn't, or they try to force a Baron that they shouldn't?
Yeah, and in situations like this, what we need to talk about is what does a team fight look like if we make it to a point where these teams are relatively even. You fast forward another 15 minutes and the gold lead's still like this, I call it an even game, to be perfectly frank with you. So, does Afreeca Freecs win in a late game fight when you've got the items that you want, given the fact that they have the champions they have, or can Uzi carry forward with this Varus given the composition?
Time Xiaohu's around the side.
Well, the ultimate's just going to straight up miss onto Uzi. It's not what you wanted.
But the turret stays up, so the cooldown goes down, the crowd laughs, but that doesn't actually get them the turret yet. It seems like this will be the wave, as they're trying to proxy the enemy wave from crashing. We'll get back to your theoretical team fight point in a moment, but this should be RNG finally breaking the turret.
I just feel like they're trying to force a round peg into a square hole right now.
Well, Infernal Chains is going to come in there as Ming looks for his engagement, doesn't get it as Susan. Really quick fingers on his Devour. Xiaohu looking for the engagement, but good ward over the side, and might be Spirit finding this Vladimir, but he really does not want to tango with this guy. He's been sitting on that needlessly large rod for such a long time. That Rabbidan's death cap must be so close. But still unable to get that outer turret in the mid lane.
And you can see the frustration. RNG are getting tired of Afreeca doing this. The fact that they tried to force the dive, that Uzi was tanking several tower shots, trying to get the chip damage away at the tower, even through the fortification. RNG don't know how to attack this map other than just throwing their face at it.
Man, Afreeca's discipline has to be rewarded here, because the checklist of what to do this game instantly was rubbish. They couldn't even look at it because they were so far behind. And to make a new checklist of respect, as you see, just a couple set-piece plays to check for vision, is so tricky, because you can have no ego in scenarios like this. I'm Keen, the top laner of Korea, means so little when you can't even get into your inner turret 6 minutes into the game. They've been able to fall back again and again. This game is going to be 25 minutes somehow. If you fast forward at 10 minutes to 25 and see a mid lane turret up, you're going to call just BS.
The gold lead's actually less. They haven't been able to increase it at all. It's in fact been Afreeca Freecs getting farm on the side lanes. This should be the turret unless RNG don't get there, and they don't.
I mean, it's just huge shout out and credit to Afreeca's coaching staff. They look so drilled right now. You will buy wards, you will place it like this, you must check the Baron at this time.
Well, this should finally be the turret. They're going to tank it up, and brute force is going to equal the end of the outer ring for the Afreeca Freecs.
And while it was an inevitability, consider the items that were nowhere near to being there on Afreeca that have shown up by how doggedly they've been able to keep that turret up. It may not mean anything. I think, to answer your earlier question, RNG have a pretty significant team fighting advantage in an even game because they can front to back a lot easier than Afreeca. Afreeca need a time for the Anivia to do damage and then let's start the resets. Because of that, the Vladimir chase potential, I will take RNG. And also the battlefield positions where they can fight are going to be more straightforward because it's going to be an Elder Dragon and a Baron of repute that Afreeca are going to have to remove their defensive turtling from to actually come out and fight it.
Well, we'll see whether Afreeca Freecs can pull a rabbit out of a hat. They've already done what I saw as being relatively impossible, surviving to 26 minutes in a game where they still have all of their inner turrets and haven't suffered any more deaths of any of their members.
Yeah, win or lose here, you know, if you open up this post-match thread and people are just complaining that it wasn't KT, go back and watch the tape because Afreeca should hold their heads high for their ability to hold like that, especially against a team like RNG.
And I made the joke earlier, what do you do when, for a man who has nothing? Keen had nothing, Afreeca Freecs had nothing, they had no control. The gold lead did not read where the game was at. The game state was, Afreeca have no options in terms of the map. Well, what do you have then, Atlas? The thing is you have is your principles, you have your training, you have your learnings.
Yeah.
And that's what they fell back on. They said, well, this is a disaster, what can we do? That was extend the game. Now we see RNG took a long time to problem solve getting that mid lane outer turret. If they could get a Baron right now, that would be huge for them.
Well, control ward in the back of the Baron pit. They did start it off. Only a couple of members of RNG just testing the waters here in this river.
And it's very scary to approach the Baron at any point. RNG's composition, the ability for them to turn off a Baron that they start is massive between the Trundle and the Rakan. So Afreeca must approach this objective perfectly, otherwise it's lights out, despite how patient they've been for 15 minutes.
Have a lot of options, Sejuani, Tahm Kench. They have a lot of ways to check this. The wall also, over the wall.
Yep, well, they are going to get another ward in there as half the health bar of this Baron has already been taken down. RNG, they could be walking themselves into a 50-50 moment. Nice double stun comes in from Kuro as Afreeca Freecs. They don't want to fight straight up, but they'll try and steal a Baron if they can. Looks like RNG doesn't want to go for the 50-50. Pillar position's decent there for MLXG.
Do you want to say that it is level 13 Smite versus level 12, so still technically a 50-50, a lot of the surprise factor to Spirit.
Level lead there, and Afreeca Freecs make the recent call of they're not going to try to finish it. They're not going to play like they have for the better part of 6 months and then just go for a 50-50 Baron. Nice little play by Kuro.
Yeah, as the tie gets over the wall, thankfully Umbral Dash is going to be enough as they've engaged onto the Vladimir. He just straight up dies, and that's aiming, grabbing the kill. Xiaohu may have thrown away the lead.
What did I say about Xiaohu? Such an inconsistent performer. Sometimes he looks incredible and like a disaster in the exact same game. And that is one of those moments that you just cannot afford. RNG, they're getting tired with Afreeca. They are not used to this type of pace of game.
They thought they would have won by 26, 28 minutes for Skurin, and I think a lot of people would have joined them in that camp.
Of the LPL.
We've had so many famous base defenses, Captain Jack, on CJ way back when. This is not a base defense, this is a lost game being salvaged by Afreeca Freecs. They get the pick, Xiaohu's too far up. If they find a way to win this game, it's just one of those games that stats can do no justice for how much of a momentum shift we've seen. And if they lose, they can hold their heads high, because given the premise of you went in standard and got the most obliterated in the first 8 minutes, to still be competitive 21 minutes later is something amazing.
And there's still standing gold on this map as well. Yes, Uzi shoving waves in. You've got Vladimir now back on the map, able to shove waves forward, but there's outers to be taken. The first turret for Afreeca just fell down. All of the local gold going over to Keen as well, who's got a Sterix gauge. There is getting to a point now where those fights you were talking about, those fights where Glacial Storm's down and we're resetting everywhere, this could be an opportunity because Blade Caller from Aiming is going to help out, and Tucson can help reposition in these fights as well.
Aiming has item parity with the Varus.
He's got a dang Infinity Edge somehow out of nowhere.
Item parity there. The Vladimir,
probably gold parity as well, pretty close too.
The Vladimir, I think, has the lead in items as Keen is trying to feed on Xiaohu again.
Yeah.
And for me, the big game breaker here will be Xiaohu, one way or the other. I think it's about the Vladimir Hemoplague, and if he gets flanks on these team fights, because he really is the big difference in terms of fighting front to back, because he does have access immediately into the backline to completely disrupt a lot of what Afreeca want to do. So if Xiaohu's not on form, I think RNG could very easily fall to this type of composition just because of the reach and control that Anivia has.
Oh, Infernal Chain's going to pull back Tucson, is going to have to invest the flash, and that is a huge deal. So much safety for Afreeca Freecs now off the map.
Also safety in the base checks that Tahm Kench would want to evacuate you from around the Baron. So this Baron, I think who takes it first will be the predictor of who wins this game. And RNG, they're on it. They know this time the pillar could be big. They could just kill the Tahm Kench.
Well, RNG, they're still taking this one down. It's below half health now as Afreeca Freecs. They throw in the ward. There's the engagement onto Tucson. They know he's got no flash and he's just dead. Uzi grabs that kill. And now Xiaohu, he wants more. Keen doesn't get the apprehend. The flash from Spirit. They want to be able to find this one as they can get it. They ult the reset.
Is he gonna live?
Ming, does he actually get it? It's the Hemo Plague that gives him all the health back and aiming. He may need to just Featherstorm and flash to get himself out. Good God, the repositioning's good from RNG as the team fight is ballooning out of control. Zatai, the World End is there just in celebration. They'll go back to the Baron. Teleport is already there.
And here comes Xiaohu. TP's back in. It was by a sliver that the Hemo Plague was able to come back, give him the health, and they have finally problem solved this Rubik's Cube that were Afreeca.
Oh boy, what a road it took to get here, but Spirit's still near. So unlikely they get the steal, but he's gonna try.
Yeah, they're looking for it. Ming has to go golden. They do have the Glacial Storm there in a decent position as Tucson does use the ultimate to get himself back here. It is the Baron. It's secured by RNG. Afreeca Freecs didn't want to take the chances. Keen, he's on the bottom side. He'll get him something.
And it wasn't pretty. It was very scrappy, very rough, and way too close for comfort, especially against MSI champions.
It's still the right move. Tahm Kench is moving up. He doesn't have flash. They kill him. This is the reward for the flash they got earlier. The interaction that's the most interesting is right at the end of this fight. They try to DPS down Xiaohu so close to falling. I believe he definitely needed that battle dance to keep him alive, to not die to the bleed. Watch the interaction with the W coming through from the Aatrox, comes down from the feathers and is forced way back in. Crucially, on the wrong side of the wall. He was deported to the side of RNG.
Yeah. Weird interaction. I wasn't expecting that one to work like that, but oftentimes when you go untargetable, if you're already tethered, that tether does not break, much like the soul shackles of a Morgana. So today we learned that is how the Aatrox works as well. Another dragon goes down, 4 Drakes, really boosting the level of this Elder Drake that's going to be coming up in 6 minutes time.
But what a painful game to learn it in. And Afreeca, the good news is that they still have an abundance of wave clear. So yes, they're going to lose a lot of these outer structures towards the Baron, but they should be able to hold their base if they play defensively.
I'm not sure if I agree, Proscurin. The Anivia against the new Baron buff is far flung from the Anivia that we saw in Season 2 with the old Baron buff. Froggen would dream to have those minions back, as these monstrous minions are so hard for Anivia to quickly clear.
Yeah. I'm more about the wall. The fact that she can separate the minion wave from RNG charging in and then try to create space for Xayah to clear out the wave.
But then you don't have the wall for the cavalcade of bruisers rushing in to dive you.
Yeah.
This is the sort of game where a Rakan can win it for you. He has his flash up, has his ultimate available. There's definitely a team fight under a turret that RNG comfortably win, because Uzi has a just complete load of damage on his side.
He's got 100% crit.
Yep.
Right now with the Runon's Hurricane completed, he's doing a hell of a lot of AoE damage, has Blade of the Ruined King to cut through anyone that has any defensive stats, and to be perfectly honest, they don't have any defensive stats. Okay, we've delivered aiming into this fight underneath the turret, but who cares about turrets? Double kill for Uzi, as we were talking about, just crits their face off, and that was just a straight up misplay from the Afreeca Freecs.
Tucson just misreads the situation. I mentioned his Tahm Kench. He makes the wrong read. He doesn't respect the Rakan. Flash ult, they're dead.
Yep, and that's going to be the base broken on the top side of the map. RNG looking down, another Rift Rivals victory for the LPL. They destroyed the laning phase. It was slow in the middle, but they're still looking to end it right here. The ultimate flung out from Spirit. He knows it's all over. Nexus turrets are erupting, and RNG have done it. They've come back. The LCK were poised to win in Game 4, but no, Rogue Warriors first. And RNG now, Nexus destroyed, LPL reigns supreme.
A true regional effort from the LPL. They took All Stars and people said the tournament doesn't matter. They take down MSI and they say, but wait, it's not quite Worlds. And yes, Rift Rivals is not the same prestige, but this is now 3 titles that Uzi has swept up alongside his domestic one, and they are looking towards Korea.
And a twist on your words, but not a big one, Proscurin. It was a regional epic. This was an awesome series where both teams, you could not lay any questions of how much they were trying, how much they were showing. Everyone brought their A game today. Rogue Warriors keeping them in it. RNG being ahead of the Koreans once again. Well-deserved victory to the LPL and RNG.
And you can hear the sixth man, the crowd here in this arena. Dalian erupting for RNG. Afreeca Freecs still heads held high. Like you were saying, Papa, it was a valiant effort to stay within touching distance of that game, but in the end, nothing they could do.
You sub in any team 8 minutes into that game, I think they lose. I think Afreeca Freecs gave the best performance possible after disaster of an early game. And people will say the early game could have gone differently. Against RNG, they can make anyone look the fool. They made Afreeca look the fool, and they are well-deserved winners.
Yeah, the lane swap was just utterly genius, and it looked like Afreeca Freecs had no idea RNG will lift the Rift Rivals trophy.
最终的冠军赛区是谁是冠军？同样，让我们请出剩下3支兄弟战队，欢迎 IC 1B7 2W。 这一刻属于 LPL 所有赛区，属于所有奋斗过的场上的勇士们。来，我们所有人站成一排，我们所有人接下来就是要在这个舞台，在这个战场享受荣耀的时刻。好的，有请我们所有的战队来，我们站成一排，我们站到后面来，站成一排，我们看一下前面。同样，此时此刻，请求所有现场的召唤师们再次给到 LPL 赛区冠军的呐喊，好吗？ 好的，在捧杯之后，我们请站成一排，因为我们接下来要颁发我们的冠军奖牌。好的，来，请我们所有的战队站成一排，接下来就是享受荣耀的时刻了。哇！通过了这几天的努力，我们在场上团结一致，最终获得了这次比赛的冠军。同样，让我们请出为他们颁发这次荣誉的嘉宾，让我们有请的是。 拳头游戏大中华区及东南亚地区负责人叶强生先生，拳头游戏中国区业务负责人林松先生，腾讯互动娱乐合作市场部总经理
The defending champions of the LPL once again reclaim the title of